Testing, testing. Good evening. My name is Martina Wenderveld, and it's my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of Metro Health Ministry for Health Digest. Health Digest is a program designed to reflect the broad spectrum of our Creator God's health message. Our Creator God is not just interested in our spiritual, but also in our emotional and physical well-being. We recognize that many of us are burdened by worries and sicknesses that came into the world with sin. Many of these are avoidable or reversible if we follow God's plan. He promised to free us from sicknesses of the Egyptians, who are a symbol of the people that don't know God. Health Digest aims to transform God's health message into practical techniques for a better life. Get ready for a blessing. So I will lead you through our program. I hope everybody of you got a handout. We will start again with a Bible thought. Then we will present a plant-based Thanksgiving that you will also be able to taste. After this, we will offer some ideas about supporting the GI tract. Then we will give you a summary of Chapter 3 of the book, Ministry of Healing. For the exercise part, we have a special guest here who knows a lot about balance. And our guest speaker will also talk about mood enhancements. I'm sure he will let you know why he is qualified to do that. We will end with a drawing for prizes, and we hope that you enjoy this evening. God bless you all, and now I will ask Pastor Dan to come up for the Bible thought.
Hello, everybody. She was going to take away my microphone. Well, it's good to see you here, and we had an interesting day today. With the school had the annual Move-a-thon, and the kids raise money for the school and different projects, and sometimes people will give a flat donation, and sometimes it'll be like a donation per mile. And so the kids were excited, and my kids wanted to break records. So, which means we have to break records with them. This was my daughter's first one as a kindergartner. She biked 25 miles. And this is my son Ian's third one, second one. This is his third one. And he biked 51 miles today. So he puts us all to shame in my house because no one else did that. He did that by himself. So I was kind of reflecting on some of the positive benefits of the day, being out in fresh air and moving our bodies and getting out to socialize with other people and, of course, supporting good cause for our school. There's lots of benefits that we could see. And I was just kind of Googling what are the benefits of exercise. And there are so many. I am scrolling here down the list. It helps with sleep, with weight control, hypertension, mood, bone strength, keeps you from falling less, improves fitness, stress reduction, helps with depression. I could go on this list for a long time. So it got me thinking of all these benefits. What does the Bible have to say about exercise? You don't think of the Bible as primarily a book of exercise and what it does have a lot. Let's see. I don't know why this is cutting in, but I'll check the battery after. So what does the Bible say? And of course, the Bible does have some things that talk directly about exercise. But I thought, what about Jesus? Jesus, do you think he exercised? He probably didn't need to because he was walking everywhere. He didn't have the luxury of getting in a car to go down the street. He had to walk. The Bible, let me read you a couple of Bible verses about what Jesus did. In Matthew of course, Mark chapter 6, we know that he was a carpenter. He worked as a carpenter, so he was used to physical work. Working as a carpenter is sometimes demanding. I don't know why this is cutting in and out, but I leave it to you. I don't know. So he worked as a carpenter, and there's some physical labor involved in that, we know. We also know that Jesus, he walked. John chapter 4, verse 4 says he had to pass through Samaria, and so he ministered on foot wherever he went. He walked great distances there. And in Matthew chapter 14, verse 23, the Bible says after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up to the mountain by himself to pray. So Jesus went hiking. How many of you like hiking? Right? He went up into the mountain. That's called hiking where I'm from, right? So Jesus went hiking. He went walking. He ministered on foot. How many miles do you think Jesus walked a year? In a year. Of course, he had no other option. We do know he rode on a donkey. We assume it wasn't his first time, right, when he rode into Jerusalem. But we can estimate that Jesus walked about 3,125 miles every year during his public ministry, which sounds daunting, doesn't it? If I say you're going to walk 3,000 miles this year, would you be raising your hand to do it? Like, if this is a challenge, I'll do it, but that sounds like a lot. Actually, though, it's not. If you walk 6,000 steps a day, you'll hit it. Am I behind a pillar? I can stand over here. So, yeah, if you walk 4,000 steps a day, which most people do, just walking around their house, their yard, in the grocery store, if you walk 4,000 steps a day, you get pretty close. So that's something that Jesus did for his whole life. I was looking at the statistics, about 21,000 miles that he possibly could have walked. It sounds like a big number, but you know what? We have the same blessing of being able to walk like Jesus did and getting the same benefits of exercise that he had. And so I was just encouraged that Jesus, he walked places, he went hiking, he worked hard in the carpenter shop, because we're spiritual beings, is what the Bible tells us. We're also physical beings, and we want to take care of our bodies. And not just so that we can look good and strong and be at our peak physical fitness, but because the goal of exercising is to improve our physical bodies so that we can be in touch with God better, right? So that the more physical energy we'll have to devote to spiritual things also, to help other people, to do things that are important in life, to make the quality of life better, to make our quality of life, but also the quality of life for others, and to devote our time and ourselves to God better. It's really easy to do when you're in a really good health, but when you're not in good health, you know what takes up our thoughts and our attention? All of our aches and our pains, okay? So when we look at the Bible, just think of the example of Jesus and get out there and do some walking. Let's have a word of prayer together. Father in heaven, thanks for all that you do for us, for what you show us, how you demonstrated on how we should live. Let us do our best to take care of our bodies, and even in the simple way of exercising, of just walking even, so that we might have stronger connection with you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
So we are already at our cooking presentations, and the theme for tonight is plant-based Thanksgiving. So this is a little bit different than what we usually do, because usually we try to present very simple recipes that everybody can follow very quickly without any special tools, not even a blender or a food processor, nothing like that, with simple ingredients. Okay. Sorry for that. With simple ingredients and very few ingredients. So Thanksgiving is a holiday, so we try to do a little bit more special. So our recipes, they are a little bit more involved, more time consuming, but they are proven recipes, and a big part of what we serve tonight is what I serve for Thanksgiving for many years already. And my children like it, though they are not really vegetarian. And all the guests that we had so far didn't complain a lot either. So our Thanksgiving meal tonight consists of 3 parts. So first an appetizer, and then we will have a main course that consists of gluten steak. And I know some of you will probably cry out, gluten, no. But to be honest, most of the people who think they are gluten intolerant are not intolerant for gluten or for wheat, but for the things that are sprayed on wheat. So most of these people might tolerate the wheat even. And gluten, that's a heavy product because it doesn't contain most of the wheat corn, but if you don't eat it every week, it's perfectly fine, in my opinion. So gluten steak with gravy is our main dish, and you could also do a roast, but we thought that we will show you how to do that one. Then we will serve a sweet potato casserole, a red cabbage side dish, because this is not that common here, and we thought we'd bring you something that might be new to you. It's more common in Europe. And cranberry sauce, and for dessert you will have apple pie. So Margit will present the first dish, which is an appetizer.
Okay. My appetizer is made with corn. It's green. Yep. Okay. I'm not going to show you any pictures, sorry about that, but this is what I use as a main ingredient. You might have seen it in the store. You can get it at Walmart, at Meijer's, at Kroger's, for example. It comes in chunks. And you take one bag, put it in your food processor, and process it until you have shredded chicken. It actually looks like chicken. And then you add your veggies, you add your relish. I do not care about the American sweet relish because it's so sweet. I do not like it. But I have pickles from Germany, and it's called Hengstenberg or Kühne. You can find that also at Meijer's or Contoros over there. They have some German products. And then just, cut the pickles or use your relish that you have in a glass. Then use half of an onion, 2 celery sticks to give it a little bit of a crunch. Mix everything, cool it, and then serve it. And that's your appetizer, and it's delicious. My husband approves of that, so that's really good. And you'll get a little taste of that right now.
This is funny, but my daughter's a vegetarian, so we eat corn all the time. Yeah, she made some yesterday. So she just kind of heats it up, just have a little bit of brown on it, and we use it like chicken pieces, like in salad. It's much better tasting than tofu. It's just kind of fun. Have you ever had it? Yeah. Yeah.
definitely there though. It's not asleep. Let's see. There you go. Oh, what? You didn't do that last time. Let's do something else. Just turn the Wi-Fi off and back on again. Off, back on. Chapel TV, Junior TV.
Now it's not on the Wi-Fi.
If you have these two, it is. Teen class, juniors. Chapel. Yep. Too much technology. Create a role. Fellowship right there.
Okay. I will present you the gluten steak with gravy. So this is a pretty involved recipe. It takes about 3 to 4 hours to fix that at least. So, but if you cook a turkey, that takes a long time too, right? So there are 4 steps. So the first step is to prepare the steaks, the chops, and here are the ingredients. Oh no, what's going on? So somebody is not liking that we have this presentation here. Okay, let's try again. Please pray for that thing to work. Okay, so the ingredients are gluten flour, normal flour, all-purpose, water, amino liquids on the top. That's like a substitute for soy sauce. Then nutritional yeast, garlic and onion powder, basil, and smoked paprika. So, you mix all of this together and form a bowl, which kind of looks a little bit weird because of the gluten flour, which is really sticky. But this is, I guess, as good as it gets. And then you spread some plastic wrap on your counter and make a little log of this bowl. I made a double recipe, and so I divided it by 4. You would divide it by 2 and make 4 of these, 2 of these logs, and then they look like this. And then I put this into the freezer and keep it there for at least 2 hours. You can also keep it overnight, and when you take it out again, okay, that's the first step. Then while this is still in the freezer, you can start already your broth. For the broth, here are the ingredients. Hello. Okay. So here are the ingredients. You see there are some vegetable, there is water, I have mushrooms. You can take fresh mushrooms, dry mushrooms. I took actually half and half because my husband ate half of the fresh mushrooms that I had. Then some carrots, some onions, garlic, and celery sticks. And then again you have amino liquids, nutritional yeast, garlic and onion powder. So simple ingredients. You put this all into a pot, and then you take the gluten logs out of the freezer and cut them. And actually, where are you? It missed my last picture and the next one. You didn't pray enough. Okay, let's see.
Maybe that was your answer.
Okay.
Well, you got our paper.
Doesn't want to cooperate. Okay. You take the gluten logs out of the freezer and cut them into thin slices and put all the broth ingredients into a big pot and then bring it to a boil and cook it for about 45 minutes to an hour. So this gets really full. So I have some 5-liter pots and had to remove it to a bigger pot because it wanted to cook over. So I used my Dutch ovens to cook actually.
So because it's, I mean, just to clarify, the gluten swells,
Yes.
so that's why it gets
Yeah,
bigger
it gets
in the
bigger
pot.
and bigger.
So if you've never made it, that's the issue is that it
Right.
starts expanding, so you end up with these growth.
Right, right. Or you put a lid on top of it when you are cooking it. Okay, then when this is cooked, you drain the gluten out of the fluid. So I have a very big strainer, this wide, and I put a pot underneath because I don't want the fluid to go away. I will use it for my gravy. So I strain the fluid out, and left over are the cooked gluten chops and the veggies. So the veggies I take out and put into my blender, and then I take a griddle, or you can take a pan, and I fry the gluten chops in olive oil on both sides. And when they are done, I put them into a serving dish, and with the veggies that are in the blender now, I mix them with some of the fluid that I drained and also some cornstarch. I have all the measurements here. I take 5 tablespoons, so a capitalized T is tablespoon, a small t is teaspoon. I take 5 tablespoons of cornstarch and some salt. So in this case, I used like 1 tablespoon of salt, which is pretty much. I mix all of that, mix it with pour it into a pot together with the rest of the fluid, and cook it for a few minutes until it thickens because of the cornstarch. Then I pour this gravy over the gluten chop, and it's ready to serve. Then you just keep it warm until your guests are coming and you can enjoy your meal. Okay.
How many servings does this recipe make?
This makes, that's a good question, at least 10, maybe 15. So we usually have around 10 people for Thanksgiving, and we eat at least twice from it. Yeah. But if you have teenagers, they eat a little bit more.
But it freezes well.
Yeah, it freezes well too. So you will be able to taste this. And now Margit will present how to make the sweet potato casserole. And I will try to get this working and show you the pictures after.
The other thing is you can take that and grind it and make it like a burger. So you can make other things with that particular recipe. So, yeah. But just being able to grind it up and make some burger, you can freeze it, turn it out, it makes it easy.
The next one is the sweet potato casserole. So you can prep your sweet potatoes really well, cook them before, smash them or mash them, and put them in the refrigerator overnight, and then mix it in with your 2 flaxseed eggs as a binder, brown sugar, or you can actually even use the coconut brown sugar if you think that's a little bit healthier. Maybe you can even use that syrup. What is it called? I'm trying to. Thank you. Maple syrup. A little bit of vegan butter, vanilla extract, and cinnamon, and then smash it all up, mix it well, put it in a loaf, and then basically put your toppings on that contains of pecan meals, or you can exchange them if you can't use the pecans. You can use walnuts or some other nuts, and then a little bit of flour, brown sugar, and the vegan butter. And you know how to make crumbles, so just put that on top of the loaf and then bake it for about 20 to 30 minutes until it's thoroughly heated up. And then you serve that. That's it. I'm sorry, I don't have any pictures. We can imagine. Next time I'll take some pictures.
It is still not working. So please go in your handout to the red cabbage page. That's a side dish, which fits very well to the sweet potato dish and very well to the gluten steak. So, with this recipe, you start with a head of red cabbage. So you take away the outer layers, and then I cut it in 4, take out the trunk, and then I cut it into small stripes, and then I make the stripes a little bit smaller so that you have pieces like this. And then you prepare your apples, so preferably sour apples. I used Granny Smith apples in this case. I peel them, take the inner part out, and grate them in the food processor. Then you cut an onion, and then, let's see. Okay, these were the pictures of the gluten. So here it's cooking with the veggies. Here I have the strainer, and that's what's left when you take the fluid off. I put oil on a griddle and put my gluten on there on both sides. My veggies into the blender. I put some of the fluid in there and the cornstarch and the salt, mix that in the blender, and then I cook it and pour it over the gluten steak. Okay, And now for the cabbage. So, this is my cabbage in 4 pieces. Take off the trunk. Then I cut it into these kind of little pieces. So it looks like this before it's cooked. And then I saute the onions in a little bit of olive oil. And then I put in sugar. So this is to caramelize the onions. And then you cook it a little bit and it tastes very good. And then I put in all other ingredients. So you see the cabbage here, and the apples, and the cinnamon, and the nutmeg. And if you like raisins, you can put raisins in too. I didn't do that now because not everybody likes raisins. I would like them, but not everybody in my family doesn't like it either. And salt, and that's it. You cook it for about 20 to 25 minutes, taste it, salt it a little bit that the herbs and spices come out very good, and it's ready to eat. Okay.
So before we go on, I forgot to give you a little bit more information about sweet potatoes. It helps with our eyes because it's high in vitamin A. And the more orange a fruit or vegetable is, the more beta-carotene it contains. Secondly, it helps with our gut health, and the potatoes have soluble and insoluble fiber. And the soluble fiber will help the good bacteria in our gut, and the insoluble fiber that we have to get rid of helps with constipation. And number 3, it boosts the immunity because of the abundance of vitamin A. Number 4, it maintains healthy weight. It keeps us fuller longer, and it helps us not to overeat. Number 5, it promotes healthy hair and skin, because it contains, again, vitamin A, vitamin C, and vitamin E. Number 6, it regulates blood pressure. So the sweet potatoes are rich in potassium, and it helps to regulate the excretion of sodium, and it will lower the blood pressure because it gets rid of the extra water. Number 7, it regulates also the blood sugar. It is actually high in natural sugars, in starch, but it's actually on the low glycemic index. Okay. The next food item that I want to present you with is the cranberry sauce. It's also, again, a very simple recipe. I could not find any fresh cranberries, so I found some, luckily, in the frozen section. You just take them out, put them in a pot, and add your cup of fresh squeezed orange juice. I would suggest squeeze your own oranges, it tastes better. Also grate your oranges so you have the orange zest. Make sure that it's organic so you don't get too many extra pesticides. You can add the honey or again the agave nectar or some other things. And then you have your fresh ginger. It actually called for a different kind of ginger, and it called for 1/3 of ginger. I'm not a fan of ginger, so I diminished the ginger, I would say half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon, no more, unless you really like the ginger. If you add too much, it makes the whole dish bitter, and I've done that before. And what you basically do, put it in a pot, get it to a boil with all the ingredients, and after about 10 minutes or so, turn off the heat, take it off the stove, and let it sit there. And to the amazement of me, it becomes like Jell-O. And then you have your more or less your healthy cranberry. You can add, adapt the sugar as you want to. You can add a little bit more or less. And so there are no additives, it's all natural.
Okay, here's the plan for the tasting. Please take the plate that's on your table and go to the front there, and there you will be served these 4 dishes that we presented to you: the gluten steak with gravy, the sweet potato casserole, the red cabbage, and cranberry sauce. Enjoy.
Yes, I think because I think the antenna is at the very bottom. So we're probably near the range of those lights. Usually we use the ones that are just in this room when we're streaming it. So they weren't all the way back to the soundboard. Yeah, but that doesn't work.
Good evening. I hope you are enjoying your impromptu Thanksgiving dinner in September. I want to talk to you about the apple pie that you'll be having. So you thought this was it. There's more. You'll find the recipe in your packet as well. I don't have pictures for you because I forgot my phone at home. But so the crust is pretty straightforward. I think sometimes people are intimidated by pie crust, but it doesn't have to be scary. So the crust has 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of vegan butter. You're gonna kind of break it in there, and you want the butter to be cold. So when you mix it in, you can either use a fork to kind of break it up, or there's, I think it's called a pastry cutter. Okay, and then it'll just get kind of like the sandy texture, little clumps, and that's good. It's okay. You'll mix it in with a teaspoon of brown sugar and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then separately, you'll have 1/2 cup of water and then 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. So that lemon juice is it won't give it a tart flavor, it's just gonna help the crust to stay tender and flaky. So then you'll pour that in carefully and then combine it all together, make it into a ball, and then split that into 2 pieces. So one of them you will put into your pie dish, and you'll just press it down. So you don't even have to roll it out. You just put it right in the pie dish, and then using your hands, just press it out and then line up, up the sides of the dish. And then you'll put that pie dish, and then the other half of your crust that you made, you can wrap it in plastic wrap and then put it in the refrigerator for at least an hour. So I left mine overnight and made it in the morning. So once you're done with that, you let it cool for at least an hour. While you're doing that, you can work on the filling. So the filling is about 5 apples. It kind of depends on the size of the apple and the size even of your pie dish. You can kind of eyeball the size of your dish and how much you're getting as you are peeling and slicing your apples. Then you're going to combine that with a cup of brown sugar, a tablespoon of lemon juice, and then some lemon zest as well, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And you'll just mix it all together. And you'll put that into your pie dish. You're going to have a lot of liquid. So we want to leave that liquid behind. Use maybe a slotted spoon to pick your apple slices out of your whatever bowl you mix them in and put them into your pie dish. And then once you've filled it, then you'll take that other half of your pie crust that you made that you put in the refrigerator in the plastic wrap. You can put like a piece of parchment paper down, put the ball of pie crust, and then put another piece of parchment paper on top, and then roll it out. That way you kind of avoid the stickiness on your rolling pin, on your counter, and at the end you can just toss the 2 parchment papers. So roll it out about the size of your pie dish. So this is what's gonna go on the top. Then once you've done that, you can take the top parchment paper off, and then with the bottom, just pick up the bottom parchment paper and then flip it over right onto your pie dish. And then you'll peel that parchment paper off. So you don't even have to get your hands dirty with that. And then you'll pinch the sides. You can make the sides fancy. I'm not very good at making, like the fancy edges on the pie. But it's up to you how you do that. But you do want to seal it around the edges and then put some venting slices on the top. So just take a knife and cut maybe three little slices on the top of your pie. And then you can brush it with a little bit of plant-based milk just to give it a more golden color. Then pop it in your oven at 400 degrees for 25 minutes. You'll lower that temperature to 375 and leave it an additional 30 minutes until it gets golden brown. So the recipe says 30 to 35 minutes, but definitely for me, in my oven, it was on the lower length of time, so 30 minutes. And then you have some yummy pie to enjoy.
I hope you liked some of it. I cook usually for Thanksgiving also some mashed potatoes, some stuffing, some green beans, another pie to give more variety for people who don't like some of this stuff, but for this event we could not do all of that. So, but I think you got a taste of it, and yeah, if you want more, there is still more in the back. Help yourself, and I hope you enjoyed that. So our next part will be a presentation from Sharon about the GI tract, and she will come up now.
Well, they asked me to talk about the GI tract. So first, we're just going to do a quick review of some things that we've already heard, everybody knows, and we have to make choices each day. Do we eat enough fiber, protein, or fats? A lot of this material has come from Barbara O'Neill. I listen to her a lot, and I have a book of hers that I could look at for some of this material. Some of it comes from our own health lectures that we've had here, and even when we had supper club, we had health lectures by Vicki Griffin. So it comes actually from my whole life. I'm going to talk mostly about what we put into our bodies, because we have quite a large section about exercise to follow by Nathan Hyde. However, the very first thing that I think everyone should consider before you prepare the food, even after you buy it, that the food should be washed. But more importantly, your hands should be washed frequently when you're preparing food, or whatever you're doing, whenever you're handling food. Even after you have finished your meal and you're going to put it back in the refrigerator, you should wash your hands, because that's the single most important thing that you can do to prevent disease. So if we have healthy hand washing practices, and if we eat some of the healthy foods that we know that we should, usually our GI tract acts, and we don't even have to think about it. It usually works very well. So I'm just going to review some things that we should do that we all know to help keep our body system of the GI tract. And GI means gastrointestinal. That means from the top of your mouth until it comes out. That is called your GI tract. So nutrition, first of all, the fiber. There is fiber in fruits and vegetables. So especially your vegetables, the dark green leafy vegetables, beans if they're properly prepared, whole and gluten-free greens, like millet, quinoa, spelt, seeds, and nuts. These help maintain good cholesterol levels in our bodies, but they also, when they're high in fiber, they're like a broom, and they keep our GI tract clean so that it will prevent problems, usually such as constipation. And also, it helps us to maintain good heart health. Vicki Griffin used to say often in her presentations that we should have a colorful plate, because when you have a colorful plate, as Margate explained so carefully, you get different nutrients from different foods. And so in some cases, your body does store some nutrients from some foods that you may have eaten at breakfast. So when you eat at noon, your body has still some of the nutrients needed to help digest the food that you've eaten earlier. Protein is needed because all of our body cells have protein and water. That's why it's very important to drink enough water during the day. If you have gotten to the place where you feel thirsty, you are dehydrated. You should drink at least 8 to 10 glasses of water a day, and that will also help regulate your intestines and keep your kidneys working well and your lungs. Fats, healthy fats like nuts, pumpkin seeds, pine seeds, almonds, any of your nuts A healthy fat, another healthy fat is avocados. Coconut or olive oils are the recommended oils because they contain nutrients important for heart health, hair, nails, and skin. And they are made from plants, so your body can easily digest them. There are other categories of food, garlic and onions and seasonings that we use, but especially garlic and onions can be used internally as we use them in foods for flavor, but you can also use them externally for different health conditions. So we don't have time to go into all that right now. Another important thing is water. It's really, really important to have an adequate intake of water. Every cell in your body needs water. Your brain is 70 to 80% water. And so we need it for the blood mobility that moves through your body, for your lungs and for your other organs to keep them in good, healthy activity, and for GI tract lubrication, for having normal bowel movements. And the GI stands for gastrointestinal, like we said. But usually this body system works well, and we don't have to worry about it. But sometimes our GI tract gets out of whack. That means it's not quite working. It either can get stopped up and we get constipation, or it can be too loose and we're really in trouble. One of the first things to consider when you think that you are feeling hungry is, when was the last time I had water? The reason you want to ask yourself this question is because your body does not distinguish between the need for food or for water. So your first question to yourself should be, when was the last time I ate? If I just ate half an hour ago or an hour ago, I'm not really hungry. If I've been eating a diet that's high in fiber, but if I have been eating other things, I need to consider that it may be time to drink some water. The best time to drink your water is upon rising, before you eat, and in between meals. And then, if you're careful, and your body likes to be on a schedule. So if you stop drinking your water a couple of hours, an hour or two before bedtime, then you usually can maintain your nightly sleep without getting up often to the bathroom, unless there are other conditions present. So I want to do a disclaimer right now that you should always check with your doctor before you try one of these things that I'm going to mention, and that is charcoal. Charcoal is good, especially if you are traveling and you have irregular food times, or you have irregular food that your body is unused to. You may have an adverse reaction to the food. And so it's very good, especially if you're traveling, to carry charcoal tablets or charcoal capsules with you. Then you have something that you can use that's readily available. And I think Martina is going to bring around a little tiny sample of some charcoal. The good thing about charcoal is there are no adverse side effects from charcoal. But I will tell you that if you eat charcoal, that later on, after the charcoal has gone through your small intestine and your large intestine, your stools will be black. So black stools can be a sign of something else. But if you've just taken charcoal, then expect that your stool is going to be black. Charcoal can be taken internally for your GI tract. It's also very good externally. I have had it used on me to remove some poisons from my legs. When I went to the EC, I got into something in the water there, and they came and used a charcoal poultice on my legs 2 or 3 times a day to reduce the swelling and itching. So charcoal is very, very good. It's tasteless, and if you think you have the powder and you think, I don't want to eat that, it just flies all over. You can put it in something that you do like to eat. If you have some gravy, or if you use yogurt, or something like that, so that you can have the charcoal and put it in your body, and it will help you. There are no adverse side effects to charcoal. It is also good for dogs. You can ask Martina. And you can also use it safely for children, but you would want to use a smaller amount for a child. So some other ways that we can think about helping our GI tract is, especially when it's out of whack, is to just skip a meal. If you say to yourself, well, I'm not really hungry right now, maybe I can wait. And then don't put more food in your stomach, because sometimes your stomach needs to rest a little bit more than we think about resting it. Or you might choose to do a fast. A fast can be for a meal or for a day, for a week. Choose the amount of time that you want to fast, but I wouldn't fast more than 2 days without consulting your doctor. And a lot of times people fast and use water only, especially for 1 day. If we use moderation in eating and not overload our stomach or demand constant activity of our digestive tract, it will thank us. If a child especially has a situation like this where they're going to the bathroom too often, we have what they call the BRAT diet. That's bananas, rice, applesauce, or toast. So just for a day or two while they're having this condition, you can give them 1 or 2 of these things, but keep the amount of time spaced between the meals so that their stomach doesn't have to work all the time. I have another friend who says, a body in motion stays in motion. A body at rest stays at rest. So this ties into our activity with our exercise, and that is if you're sitting often or you sit at a desk all day, it's really important, especially to get up and walk a little bit or just exercise your legs for your blood circulation, also to give your mind a rest and your eyes if you're looking at a screen a lot. Another thing that we can think about every day when we eat is to take smaller portions. Maybe we don't need as much as we see that is available for us to eat. I find this especially important for myself when we have a fellowship meal at church. Now you know that you don't need all 25 of those things in your stomach at the same time, okay? So I look at what's offered and I choose 4 or 5 things, or something that I may not make at home myself, and then I eat those at the fellowship meal. Occasionally you'll have a meal, not usually, but like Thanksgiving. You have a larger meal at Thanksgiving or Christmas. I'm not talking about that. It's just the woman or the person in the kitchen that's cooking shouldn't have to make you a Thanksgiving type meal every day. It takes a lot of work, unless they're at home, stay-at-home mom, and have already worked into this. So we can take fewer choices, or we can have smaller portions of food, and that will also, our gastrointestinal tract will thank us for our discernment in figuring this out. Another thing that can cause distress of our GI tract is a lot of stress. If you're going through a lot of things, a friend of mine texted me today. She said, my husband is leaving on a plane to go to Florida to see our youngest daughter. My sister has been with me for 2 weeks, and she's just returning to Romania. And I have the dog, and he's old, and I don't know how long he's going to live. So these are things that cause stress to us. So most of us don't usually have 3 or 4 high-level stressful things happening at the same time. But if there's something in your life that is causing you stress, then we need to think about that, because this can either cause the constipation or the diarrhea or a very bad upset stomach. Another thing that affects our digestive tract is our mood. If we have a nice place setting and we're eating with friends, or there's nice music playing while we eat, this helps digestion because it helps us to relax, and we can get the more nutrients from the food that we're eating. Another thing that I want to mention is trust in divine power. That is, God is in control. We are actually in charge of very little. So we can allow ourselves to take a minute vacation. Sometimes, I was doing this the other day, I had like 4 things going on at once. I was washing clothes, I was cleaning the house, I broke the top of a bottle and Pine Sol went all over the floor. And then my friend called me, "Do you need a distraction?" I go, "Yes." Sometimes you just have to stop. And actually, your body is happy if you take a rest now and then. Just sitting down will sometimes change the way that we think and our busyness. And we have a choice to refocus our mind. That's one of the blessings God gave us. If we have so many things coming at us from so many different directions, we can choose to refocus our minds. One way to do this is to count our blessings, not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dear Lord, thank you for all your blessings today. No. Thank you for the sunshine today. Thank you for all the people that came out. Thank you that the food turned out. And thank you that we can meet together and talk about how to serve you better by taking better care of our bodies. Another thing that we can do mentally is reevaluate our present priorities. When a lot of things are coming at us, sometimes we just need to stop and say, okay, what do I need to do right now? What has to be done now? These other things, maybe I can do later. Maybe I can do some of them tomorrow. They don't have to be done, all of them, right now. So do the duty or the task that before you right now. If it's cleaning out the refrigerator or sweeping the floor, yeah, just wait. So God said he knew all of our days before we were born, the days that were fashioned for us. So this situation or this event that we're going through, God knew about. It's no surprise to him. And he has 1,000 ways to provide for us, of which we know nothing, which is why it's important to stay connected to him. And it also helps our mood, and it helps our digestion. So choosing a plant-based diet is very important. And they suggest that 80% of the time that you really try to stick to your plant-based diet. But sometimes you just have to have something. Okay, but over time, your dietary taste will change. So if you keep choosing and have healthy choices readily available for those times when you're hungry, not like me, don't wait until you're so hungry you want to eat everything in sight, whether it's edible or not. You know, the box is still came in, anything. So no, just have something readily available, carrot and celery sticks, fruit, or water. It might be time to drink water. The target goal they would like to suggest is 50% cooked and 50% raw. The important thing is to keep an open mind about trying new vegetables that you may never have eaten before. And remember, it's a process. You're not going to walk out of here tonight and everybody's going to start on a plant-based diet. Just choose a day or a meal and just start with that one thing. In fact, I think if you look at your menus that you usually eat, you probably have a plant-based meal. You just don't think of it that way. So the more that we can have a plant-based diet, the happier we'll be, and your body will thank you because you'll have optimum health.
Thank you very much, Sharon. So I just want to show you quickly, this is charcoal in powder form that you can buy over Amazon or some health stores. So charcoal is such an amazing thing that God gave us, which is very easy. You can basically make it by yourself, but this is purified. So our dog had lately diarrhea, and I mixed charcoal with water into his food and some yogurt. If you want it plant-based, you can take some probiotics and bananas, and it got much better. So, and it basically has no side effects except that it helps for diarrhea if you have that, but this little amount that I gave you will do nothing except help with a heavy meal like the one we had just before. So if you are brave enough, just drink it. It doesn't taste much more as water, maybe like a little bit does, but charcoal by itself does not taste anything. So try it out and be brave.
All right, so I've been reading the book, The Ministry of Healing, and has anybody ever here felt super tired at the end of the day? Okay. Has anyone ever woken up after a full night's sleep and felt super tired? Yeah, it happens, I think, to all of us. We all have just this busy life and we feel tired, and a lot of times, unfortunately, the thing that we cut is sometimes our time with God, right? So in the morning, when we know we should have time with God, we take a couple extra minutes to sleep in because we think that's what will help us not feel tired. Or we had a busy day and we know there's midweek prayer meeting, but I'm just so tired, I think I'm gonna skip it. And I think this chapter, at least for me, really spoke to me. And I just wanna share 3 quotes from this chapter. So the first one is, the author says, Jesus was an earnest, constant worker. Never lived there among men another so weighed with responsibilities. Never another carried so heavy a burden of the world's sorrow and sin. Never another toiled with such self-consuming zeal for the good of men. Yet his was a life of health, physically as well as spiritually. He was represented by the sacrificial lamb without blemish and without spot, and in body as in soul, he was an example of what God designed all humanity to be through obedience to his laws. So when we think of how tired we are, a lot of times, I know for me, I'm a teacher, there's often like these pictures where you see a person, their first year of teaching, right? And they look so happy and excited and they're full of energy. And then you fast forward like 5 years and they've got like white hair and all of these like wrinkles, from this stress, right? Stress takes a toll on our health. But the Bible tells us that we can come to God and he gives us rest, right? Even the disciples were worried about Jesus, and how much time he spent working. This is the next quote that spoke to me. Often Jesus, his incessant labor and the conflict with the enmity and false teachings of the rabbis left him so utterly wearied that his mother and brothers and even his disciples feared that his life would be sacrificed. They thought this would take a toll on his health, right? But as he returned from the hours of prayer that closed the toilsome day, they marked the look of peace upon his face, the freshness and life and power that seemed to pervade his whole being. From hours spent alone with God, he came forth morning by morning to bring the light of heaven to men. So even though we skip some of these things thinking, I'm so tired, with work and all these things, we're skipping the thing that will refresh us, that will re-energize us, that will help us with the next day or that day's, responsibilities that we have to face. And then finally, the last thing, the book talks about how Jesus would often preach like on the hillside or on the beaches to get people out in nature, and it says to turn their thoughts from the artificial to the natural. And I was telling my husband, man, I wonder what artificial things there were back then. When I think back to the time of Jesus, I think they compared to our day, but there's so many artificial things. I could definitely see why we would need to go out into nature, but even during that time where we think it's such a simple time, Jesus still chose to pull them out into nature to move their thoughts from what was then artificial. Imagine even today how much more we need to do that, because we are faced with so much more artificial. And with that, the last thing I want to leave you with is with how much we need that calm and stillness. Our society today is so fast-paced. We're bombarded with sounds and with noise and things that are trying to keep our attention. You know, there's all this data on how you only hold people's attention for like seconds, right? So you need to make sure you take advantage of that time. But really, it's the time in peace and quiet when God can speak to us. It says here, all who are under the training of God need the quiet hour for communion with their hearts, with their own hearts, with nature and with God. In them is to be revealed a life that is not in harmony with the world, its customs, or its practices, and they need to have a personal experience in obtaining a knowledge of the will of God. Have you ever wondered what God's will is for your life? We need these quiet times. That's when he'll speak to us. We must individually hear him speaking to the heart. When every other voice is hushed and in quietness we wait before him, the silence of the soul makes more distinct the voice of God. He bids us be still and know that I am God. This is the effectual preparation for all labor for God. Amidst the hurrying throng and the strain of life's intense activities, he who is thus refreshed will be surrounded with an atmosphere of light and peace. He will receive a new endowment of both physical and mental strength. His life will breathe out a fragrance and will reveal a divine power that will reach men's hearts. So I leave you with that. If you would like, you're interested in reading the Ministry of Healing, we do have some copies that you can take with you.
Thank you, Isai. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Nathan Hyde, who comes from California. Mm-hmm.
Washington State. I spent a lot of time in California. I confuse everybody.
Okay, he will introduce himself.
Thank you, Martina. Actually, these days, I'm kind of living what I call a triangular life. I spend a lot of time in Michigan, and I spend a lot of time in California, but I still call Washington my home. So I'm kind of traveling around quite a bit here and there. But yes, I'm actually from Washington State. So I just would like to, what our friend read there from the Ministry of Healing. The Lord, he liked to go out into the natural places. And you've probably heard of forest bathing. It's very good for you. So we're going to talk about exercise tonight. If you have a chance to exercise in a green space, go do that. It's way better for you. Exercise at home if you have to do it. I mean, this is Michigan. You get winter, right? Got to stay indoors. We understand that. But when you have a chance, get out there in the outdoors. It's so good for you. Those trees out there are attacked by things too in their daily lives. They're attacked by, there's diseases that come at them. There's insects that come at them. So they have an immune system of their own. So they produce something to keep those things away. And those are called phytoncides. Has anybody heard of these? Fascinating stuff. So they are actually emitting things right out of their leaves, and they're kind of enveloped in this little space there, and it helps to kill those diseases and the insects that come at them. So if we go out there and stand next to those trees, what are we getting? We're getting the same stuff. You think that stuff's good for us? Oh, yes. It's really good for us. You got to read about this stuff. I don't have time to tell you tonight, but you can go and look at it online, and it is indeed very good for you. It is very calming. So that's a very good thing for us nowadays. As she said also, there is so many distractions nowadays, so many artificial things. And we want something that's real, right? And if we can spend time with the Lord out in the forest, I might need some help here, Kevin, or David, sorry. I had to shut this off because my computer gets hot. I downloaded a new operating system on here, and although it's the right one, it didn't seem to work. It doesn't seem to work very well. It gets very hot, so I had to shut it down. Oh, Wi-Fi, is that it?
No, we found it.
Found it?
Apple TV Fellowship. Is the Wi-Fi not connected?
Go up there into the, maybe it's a different Wi-Fi. Is it on the wrong? So continuing theme tonight is technical difficulties, which is actually a good sign. So I like to tell people that I'm never so encouraged as when the enemy tries to discourage me. That tells me that I'm on the right track. So I was very pleased to see all the technical difficulties that were happening earlier. I was like, these guys are definitely on the right track here. So a little bit about myself. I actually am a biologist by my education. And I ended up working actually in chemistry in a roundabout way, and I did that for about 15, 16 years. I worked in environmental testing. And I kind of did burn myself out in that industry. It's a very competitive industry. It's a commercial laboratory. And then sorry, I stumped him, I think. I thought this might happen. And so then I went and worked in biology for 8 years, which was my training was in aquatic biology, so I worked in fisheries, which I loved. But by the end of that time, I was all the time thinking about, because of what I had learned and how this lifestyle had changed my life, I was all the time thinking about how am I going to help people to get better, a different way, because this lifestyle thing actually changed my life significantly. I suffered with depression and anxiety for most of my life, and then I found Dr. Nedley's program. It changed my life. So I decided I was going to go do that, and I went to Weimar for some training. Weimar is a health institute out in California, and they had a 4-month medical missionary training program out there. And who did I meet out there? What do you know? I met Dr. Nedley. He was teaching one of our classes, and I did well in his class, and he hired me right after that. So that's kind of how I ended up doing this. And one of the things that he has me do for him is I do a lot of writing and research. So that's one of my side hustles, so to speak. So I spend a lot of time reading studies and trying to find the real juicy stuff. So this is some of the juicy stuff that I'm going to share with you tonight. I should have known this. I just might have to tell you about this, but.
It's having a hard time finding this TV.
Oh, it is, okay.
Craterol, Chapel, Juniors, Teen, Need, Fellowship.
So Pastor said at the end of his, I told him if he says something that leads right into my presentation here that I knew I was on the right track. And indeed he did. The last thing he said was go out and do some walking. So my first slide is actually about walking, and it's about walking speed. And has anybody heard what they call the walking speed nowadays? Some people call it the 6th vital sign. So we have our vital signs, right? This is so important that a lot of doctors nowadays are calling this the 6th vital sign. So what we know is basically when you can keep your walking speed up, look at that, just in time. Just when I'm talking about walking speed, the man does it. I'm glad you're here. No, don't start the presentation because, thank you. My computer has had some, thank you. So my computer has a little, there it is, has a little problem with the presentation mode. So I'm just going to go off this. I'm just plain and say. So walking speed. What about walking speed? By the way, the title is the power of balance. So that's two things. Balance in our lives, right? That's so important. Physical, mental, and spiritual health. We have those things and we have those balanced out. We're going to do pretty well. Exercise is a big part of that physical side of things. But I want to tell you, being physically fit and having good health physically is going to help you on the other two. It's going to help your mental health. It's even going to help with your spiritual health. So it's important, those things work together. I like to think of them as links in a chain. If you draw one down, it's going to draw the other two down with it. So we definitely want to keep all of those three up there. So that's the balance I'm talking about here a lot. But I'm also going to talk about regular balance, which is the ability to stay upright and not be falling down. Because I do a lot of those exercises. I'm going to help share some of that with you tonight as well. But here's the first graph I wanted to show you. Walking speed and 5-year survival. This is a real juicy one. Look at this. Okay, so you have 3 groups here that they were studying. 65 to 74-year-olds, 75 to 84-year-olds, and those who are above 85. So the 65 to 74 is the blue line, the red line is 75 to 84, and the gray line is those above 85 years of age. And this is walking speed down here, and this is percent survival. So if you're walking at only 0.9 miles per hour, and you're 85 or over, your survival is only around 25%. Okay, so if you're older, you're still going to survive better. Younger, 75 to 84, your survival is about 60, and 65 to 74, your survival is closer to 74% or 70%. So as our walking speed goes up, does our survival go up or does it go down? Up. Goes up significantly. Look at this right up here. They're all grouped tightly together. Look at the 85-year-olds. They're right next to the 65-year-olds, 20 years older, and yet their survival is what? Over what percent? Over 90%. Wow, does anybody want that as we get older? I do. How do we get it? Over 3.1 miles per hour. That's it right there. If we can keep our walking speed up, we're liable to live longer. Now, I want to warn you, if you're walking slow right now, don't try this right away. You're going to get hurt. You can only start where you're at. Make nice, steady progress. Let time be your ally. I see this with people. I work with them out in California. I'm going to go full out, and then they come back to me. It's like, I hurt my leg. It's like, you went too fast, didn't you? Take a nice, steady thing. You can only start where you're at. You take that nice, steady growth, and it'll work just fine for you. Look at that. Was there a guy in the Bible? What was this guy's name? He said when he was 85 years old, he was able to make war as if he were how old? 40 years old. What was that guy's name?
Caleb.
He was with Joshua. Caleb, right. Do you think that story's in the Bible for us to be inspired by? Absolutely. I think that's possible for us nowadays. I just don't think the Lord has us chase our tail. You know what I'm saying? He puts those stories in there so we can be inspired, but they're real. They're very real. Okay, here's some average walking speed if you want to look at that right now. So you can see actually the younger ones, they actually go up in walking speed a little bit as they get up into their 50s, and it drops back down as we get older. But as we can see, we don't have to settle for this down here. We can actually get to above 3.1. Walking speed is a big deal. Thank you for this segue, Pastor. Thought that might happen. Another one is sedentary time and physical activity. So this is another juicy graph that I found. This compared sedentary time and physical activity. So all of these 3 groups were compared to those who had low sedentary time and high physical activity. That's the best group. That means you're not spending too much time sitting around watching television, and you're getting lots of exercise, lots of physical activity. So if you just still have high physical activity, lots of exercise, but you start to sit around a lot, what happens to your risk of death? How much does it go up? 179%. Almost triple, 179%. So what if you still have low sedentary time, but you drop your exercise down? What happens then? 338% increase in risk of early mortality. Now, what if you do both? What if you start to sit around a lot and you don't exercise very much? Wow, this is a huge thing, right? This is a big block. 679% increase in risk of early mortality if we sit around too much and we don't exercise. Wow, that's a huge deal. By the way, for this next thing that I want to talk about, I'm going to have you all stand up just for a second. Just for a second. Now, if you can't stand up, that's okay. I understand.
After we ate that,
Yeah, so it's good for you. But you know what it means right now? Now that you're standing up? It means you are no longer sedentary. See how easy that was? How many of you, okay, you can have a seat. Thank you for indulging me. I just wanted to show you how easy it is for us to become non-sedentary. So a lot of us had sedentary jobs. We sit at a desk and things like that. If you get a stand-up desk, guess what? That sedentary time plunges. And what happens to our risk of mortality? We saw it right there. That plunges too. Just standing up is a good thing to do. Netflix, not really our friend, okay? Just saying. And all that other stuff that we get, that are those distractions that are out there now. Is loss of mobility and limited function. That's what we want to stay away from, right? We want to be independent as long as we can. Do you think your kids want you to be independent too? Trust me, they do. Yeah, so if we can get this, this is a big deal. Okay, so here's the graph. Physical activity level, sorry for the blurriness there, and odds ratio for, let's see, this is loss of mobility and limited function. So as we go up in physical activity from 0, 1, 2, and 3, goes from sedentary is 0, light activities is 1, moderately active is 2, vigorous activities, high level of systematic activity is 3. As we go up in activity, does the odds ratio of loss of mobility and limited function go up, or does it go down? It goes down. Every one of these studies, which there was about 9 or 10 of them, down, 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 down. And some of them, you could see drop by as much as 80%. How do we do that? Just by staying active. Vigorous activity is a high level of what type of activity? Systematic activity. So let me ask you a very important question. You've probably heard a lot about exercise. What is the best type of exercise for you to do? What is the best exercise for you to do? What's that? What's that, sir?
I was joking.
Okay. There, I saw. Walking, okay. Swimming? Swimming, okay. I haven't heard the answer. It's a trick question, I'm sorry. It's a little bit tricky. Martina knows it because she's been at my presentations. Tell us, Martina.
The one you do.
The one you do consistently. That's it. Consistently, right? Whichever one you do consistently. Eating. Yeah, this is not really an exercise. We want a little bit more than that. By the way, we appreciate the food, and I love the food tonight. Thank you so much for that. So balance training. Now, balance is very important, especially as we get older, because we know that falls often lead to what? Broken hip, broken wrist, and that can lead to a cascade of events, right? Saw that with my mother. So what do we know about balance training? It's effective for our balance, static and dynamic, so that's standing and moving balance. Proactive balance, that's moving intently in a certain direction. Now, I highlighted this one because this one is really important. It will improve your reactive balance. Well, what does that mean? That means if something unexpected happens, you're able to react to it correctly, right? So I want to have enough reaction speed, I want to have enough strength and coordination that if I hit something and I start to go to the side, what does that leg need to do? It needs to do that. Just that right there. That's it. If I can get to the point where my leg can do that, I'm in pretty good shape. And the odds of me falling are vastly reduced. So what did we find out? It also has better balance test scores. So the Berg Balance Scale, you might want to look that one up, the Berg Balance Scale. That way you can test, you can go on and you can get a number and you can get a risk. It could be kind of scary, but at least then you'll know where you're at. You can go through this test, you can do it yourself or with someone there to help you, and then you can grade yourself. But what we know is when you do your balance training, your balance score on the Berg Balance Scale will go up if you do it consistently. How much? Usually 30 to 45-minute sessions, 3 times per week should do it. And after 11 to 12 weeks, you should be doing better in terms of your balance. That's what we know from the studies. That's what the balance training tells us. So what kind of exercise is that? So there's like balance function exercise. So that would be challenges in walking different types of ways. It would be like a tandem stance where we're going to put our feet together, and then we're going to do different things like move like this, move left and right, things like that. That would be a series of balance exercises. And function exercises too, like I said, that would be physically walking and challenges in walking. Now, if they did that, they found, if people did that, they had about a 24% risk lower in falling risk. That was compared to people who did not exercise. Now, if you add resistance training to that, then there's an additional 10% loss in your risk of falling. That's good. So we see that different types of exercise work really well in helping us to reduce our risk of falls. Now, what about walking? This is an interesting study. 90 adults, 65 to 79 years old, split into two groups for 3 months, and they walked. Group 1 walked, and Group 2 did the balance and strength exercise. And then they observed them after this for 13 months to see how many of them fall, and they had to report if they fell. What did they find? The walking group actually had 20% less likely to fall than the other group. So what does that mean? That means walking is another excellent exercise for reducing our risk of falling and improving our balance. That's really good. So what kind of exercise should you be doing to improve your balance?
The one that you're doing.
Yo, what's that? The one that you do, yes, the one that you do. See the theme? The one that you do. Be consistent. Do that one. Now, if you can mix it up, that's good. If you can do resistance training, you do the balance and function, and you can do the walking, that's nice. And you can do that kind of thing. Just be smart about it, and you make a good plan, and you go for it. But once again, it's the consistency that wins the day. I watched my father do this for years and years. Up until he was 92, he was still walking twice a day. And then he finally, he had what did he have? He had a urinary tract infection. He got dizzy. It made him dizzy, and then he fell. And he broke a bone in his back, and he couldn't walk much after that. And he died 2 years later. But I'm convinced that he would have made 100 if he hadn't done that. His mind was still sharp. So, but the thing was consistent. Wherever we went throughout our lives, he has planned it out. He's like, I'm going to walk over there. I'm going to do this. And he would do it. When we're on vacation, wherever we're at, he was doing it. He was religious about it. He was a pastor too, by the way. So he liked religion. All right, now I'm going to switch over a little bit and talk about mood. So as I said, I work with Dr. Nedley out there in California. So I see a lot of people that are struggling with mood. And what we know is that that exercise is really good for your mood. In fact, if you're feeling a little bit blue, I would definitely recommend a nice brisk walk for you or some type of exercise. Now, if you can get out into a green space and do it, that's going to be even better for you. And I'm convinced that it is within our genetic makeup to like that. It only makes sense to me because when that first guy was made, what was his name? Where did the Lord put him? In a building, right? No, it wasn't in a building? Where did he put him? In a garden. He put him in a garden. He had him do good work out there. He was exposed to a bunch of green stuff. He had to nurture things too, by the way. Yeah, if you can get outside, that's a good way to lift your mood. Get out where the birds are singing. Maybe there's some sunshine, fresh air. Think that's going to be good for your mood? Absolutely, that's good for your mood. Go ahead and stand next to a tree too, by the way, for the reasons I said. Hug the tree if you want. Watch out for the pitch, though. It'll get on you. Yeah, it's hard to get out of your clothes. So boost your mood. Depression is exceptionally common. Leading cause of disability in the world now, depression. How many people? Over 300 million people right now are suffering with depression. A lot of them just don't know what to do. I was one of those at one time. But now we're getting a better handle on it. And what we know is that lifestyle can be the way to go. Now, there could be a weaning process if you're going another way, and that's understandable. And if you're getting help from the traditional sources, that's good too. I'd say praise God for that. But if we can add to that, if we can do, like an SSRI plus exercise and feel even better, why wouldn't we want to do that? Or change our diet, or get more fresh air, anything like that that we can add to it, we definitely want to do that. So what we know about the standard treatment is this. So this is the antidepressant use over the stretch of 22 years. 1994, this is the percent adult population. Let's see, the blue is women, this gray is men, and the red is both. So it's right around 2% of the entire adult population in 1994. 2008, what's that, 14 years later? All of the adults were around 9%. Men were around 5%, ladies around 13%. 10 years later, look at that. Men up around 9%. All the adults, 14%. Look at the ladies, 19%. Wow. That means that nearly 20% of the entire adult population, female adult population in the United States, is doing what? Taking SSRI. Now, if you're getting help for that, praise God. You know, I would say I'm all in favor of that. But if there's something else we can do, we got to have a lifestyle, right? Why not make it a lifestyle that actually helps us with this? Maybe even someday you're doing so good that you go back to the doctor and the doctor's like, hey, you don't need this anymore. Just like with high blood pressure medicine or something else. I tell you what, I work with a doctor in California. That's what we do. That's what we do. Now, he doesn't take people off it unnecessarily or in a dangerous way. He's an expert at this. He's worked with thousands and thousands of people on this. So I'm not telling you to go off the SSRI. Don't do that. Don't do that. But we can add to it with exercise. And here's the study that really proved it to me right here. So this is a review study. They took all these different studies here. These are the numbers that were in the studies. Now, anything that was within this red right here had a response that was equivalent to the control, so it really didn't do much. Now, anything on this side of it had a clinical response, clinically important benefit. So here's an SSRI down here. It had a clinically important benefit right there, just barely outside the line. But look at aerobic exercise and strength. That's without an SSRI. It's even further that way. What does that mean? Had a better response. Same thing with Tai Chi, I'm not sure how you say that. Mixed aerobic exercises also. Strength, yes. Aerobic strength and therapy. Look at exercise and an SSRI. Even better, more than double the response. And then yoga, cognitive behavioral therapy. That's a very important one, especially when you combine it with exercise, which I don't see on here. And look at that. Just plain old what? Walking or jogging had what? The best response out of all of them. Praise God. Praise God that I can do something that is so simple, like walk outside of this building and walk around and get good and tired, and I can feel better. And guess what? My mood's going to improve a whole bunch. Pretty much free, except you need some good shoes and maybe a jacket, right? Wow. This one really proved it to me. I'm glad to share that one. That's part of the juice that I wanted to share with you tonight. So what did the researchers conclude? This is what they said. Exercise performed better than the SSRI or therapy. And they said, what? This is a quote from them. Should be a core treatment for depression. Now that means it can help you with your regular mood problems too. You don't have to be into frank depression to have some bad days and feel a little blue. And you can treat that with exercise. Get out there, get active, especially outside. And what did they say? Higher intensity is better. Now if you can. If you can't do that yet, don't do it. Because I don't want to see you get hurt. And I see people do this all the time. Like I said, let time be your friend in terms of improvement in your fitness and activities. Start where you're at. Just make nice, steady improvement as you go along. And sometimes you're going to hit what I call a plateau, right? You're improving. It's like up here, and I hear this all the time. I can't get any better. And I'm like, I say, where were you at when we started? They say, down here. And now you've gone all the way up here, and now you're on the plateau. I'm like, yeah, I'm frustrated. And I'm like, you know what plateaus are for? To enjoy the view. That's what I say. You've worked hard. You've got up here to this spot. You've improved a whole bunch. Why not just sit there and go, you know what? I don't have to be Superman. It's okay for me to just sit up here in this nice spot and enjoy where I'm at right now, which is better than where I was at before. Now, eventually, the plateaus usually start to go up a point, but there comes a time where you really can't go up anymore after that because you've really kind of maxed things out, which is a good place to be. Now, how long does it take? Well, I just came back from California 2 days ago, and that's a 10-day program there. And what we see is truly amazing. So I'll just give you some insight into this program. We had 20-some people, like 22 patients. The average depression score was, I believe, 18 when they're coming in. Now, the high on that scale is 27. So that's, if you're at 18, life is uncomfortable. Life is pretty hard if you're at a score of 18 with your depression. We take them through the lifestyle for 10 days. Basically, we immerse them in that. Now, it's pretty uncomfortable for the first 3 to 5 days. People are wanting to leave. They're like, out of here. And we tell them right up front, the first 3 to 5 days of this are difficult. You're going to want to leave. Don't do that. You're getting close to being over the hump. And the last 5 days are usually much easier, and it's a lot, I'll tell you, being as part of the staff, it's a lot more enjoyable because people are kind of in the groove of things, and they're enjoying things a lot better. Average score, end of the program, 1.5. How much depression is that on the scale? 0. That is down at no depression. How long did that take? 10 days. 10 days. That reminds me of something. Wasn't there something in the Bible, Pastor, about 10 days? What was that? Daniel and his friends. Yeah, the first scientific study. 10 days. Give it a try. Give something a try for 10 days. Usually it takes 7 to 10 days for exercise to affect our mood. Now, also in that program, I get to see a lot of improvement in physical fitness. And I'm going to show you one graph right here. It's all the years I've been doing the step test there. This is my favorite step test right here. So what we do is we have them step up and down a step, much like this, for 3 minutes, like this, to a certain beat. I use a metronome. They do that for 3 minutes, and what happens to their heart rate? Goes up, and after 3 minutes, I say, sit down. And then they sit, and what happens to their heart rate? Goes down. Now, I record the whole thing with a Bluetooth oximeter on a phone, and then I make a graph like this. So this was the guys before the blue one. He stepped for 3 minutes. He sat down. His heart rate was what? It's hard to see. 151. Sat for 3 minutes. At the end of the 3 minutes, it was what? 110. Exercised for 10 days. Did the same test. 3 minutes stepping up. What was it? 111. After 3 minutes, dropped down to what? 59. What does that mean? Just added a whole bunch of years to his life. No question about it. If your resting heart rate is somewhere around 59, it was 110 before that, things have changed drastically. 2 things are happening here. One, he got more fit. Secondly, I think his nervous tone dropped down because of the CBT training in there, where you're learning to control your thoughts and your anxiety's dropping. That means your nervous tone's probably dropping down too, and that's also contributing to your resting heart rate dropping. Incredible stuff. How long did that take? 10 days. 10 days. Try something for 10 days. Now, I'm going to warn you, you're probably not going to get a response like this. You might, but you probably won't. It usually takes longer than this. Make steady progress. Don't give up. There's going to be barriers that happen, and you're going to want to say, your mind's going to go, phooey, I'm quitting. Don't do that. If you look for barriers to impede lifestyle change, you will find them. They're going to be all over the place. If you look for solutions to enable lifestyle change, you will find those too. The choice is yours, really. The choice is, you'll find the solutions. Eventually you will, and you'll be able to do these things. This guy, by the way, was 61 years old. He walked for an average of about 13,000 steps a day, which isn't that much in that program, since we give people about 2 hours of exercise a day. Another just thing on heart rate study, I just threw this in since it was on the track. 16-year follow-up study, this was from Copenhagen, prospective study of about 2,800 male subjects, and they were looking at cardiovascular disease risk and mortality risk, and they adjusted things for amount they were exercised. What did they find? Each 10 beat per minute increase in resting heart rate increase, 16% increase in risk of dying from what? Anything, any cause. Men with a resting heart rate, this is kind of the extremes. Men with a resting heart rate below 50, that's really good, by the way, were 3 times less likely to die prematurely than men with resting heart rate of what? Above 90. What did the authors from the study say? Elevated resting heart rate is a risk factor for mortality. What's that word? Independent of physical fitness, leisure time, physical activity, and other major cardiovascular risk factors. That means it's an independent risk factor. So what does that mean? If you do a bunch of exercise and you drop your resting heart rate, what does that mean for your mortality risk? No matter what else you're doing. Goes down. Goes down. Absolutely. That's all the juice I have for you tonight. I may be coming, yes, question.
So you had them do this, treatment for 10 days under observation, under your guidance. What happens when they go back to their situations?
Yeah.
And what
Great
are you
question.
doing for maintenance therapy?
Yeah.
But it's one thing to do that in a closed, they
Yeah.
encourage each other, there's fellowship, and then they go back.
Okay, I didn't pay her to do this. So I just developed this program. I just developed a follow-up program for this. And that's what I was just going to tell you about, because it's the same program I can use for anybody and anything they want to do. So I keep track of them for 5 weeks. I send them accountability every day so we can see where they're going. And then I offer what I call troubleshooting sessions, so they can come on there and do some simple troubleshooting in their lives. I do this basically health coaching, group health coaching, so we can look for the solutions that I talked about, because they come up against barriers. We want to find the solutions for those. We go through a matrix, and we hopefully help them do that. I give them daily encouragement, and that's basically what I offer them in this little follow-up. But they also they can get extended care from the Nedley program, which they would pay more money for. But it would be, in that case, you would get more sessions with Dr. Nedley, more sessions with your CBT counselor, which is a cognitive behavioral therapy counselor, which is a great therapy, by the way. And let's see what else. I think you get some spiritual counseling as well. And you get a follow-up blood test. So there's different things you can do. I designed this so that it would be cheap and very quick. So you just get on your cell phone, once a day, you just get this Google form that comes, and you just fill it out, yes or no, with these questions. And then I can get a snapshot of what you're doing. Are you taking your omega-3? Are you doing your exercise? Are you practicing your CBT? Are you getting fresh air? All those things that we know are good. And then we can see, why did you stop doing this? Because if they start to dive, if they do the PQ9, which is the 9-question test, and we see that they're diving, we can look at their history and go, oh yeah, they stopped exercising, they stopped doing their hydrotherapy, and they stopped with the diet. So now, you're gonna go back. You're slipped out of, okay, we call this a lifestyle, right? So there's a time period in that term, which is what? The first 4 letters, life. So this is something hopefully we'll do for the rest of our lives. We don't call it a month style or a day style, or even year style. This is a lifestyle. This is something that we would just want to make it the way we live, and that's where we get the power of it. And that's what I've had to do. I tested it out the other way for 40-some years. I know that I will fall back. If I go back to the way I lived before, I will fall back into depression. I will, no question about it. It's in my family, rapid through my family. I'll just say it, we're a bunch of neurotics in my family. We have strong bones, though. No one has ever broken a bone in my family. But, we have troubles with sleep, and we have troubles with depression and anxiety and things like that. So I know, it's there. So I have to really be careful about what I do. I'll slip back into that. So yes, thank you for that question. The idea is to continue it forever. And what we see and what I've experienced is that those who do, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. There'll still be challenges. And you, just like anybody else, you're going to have blue days. But the thing is, you don't fall down in the deep trough when you're not getting out of bed. You're not going to work. Those now we've learned to deal with the thinking and with the physical stuff we're doing. It is just much better. So that's the program I was going to tell you about. Thank you for that segue. I'm working on that right now. It's really in development. And I have a lot more to tell you about exercise and other elements of health and healing. And you might see me again sometime. I'm not sure. But anyway, thank you for having me tonight. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for the wonderful food.
Thank you, Nathan. Lots of good information. So, before we do the drawing, I would like the pastor to come up and pray for the official part to end.
All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the wonderful things we've learned tonight. We appreciate the knowledge that you've given us and for the time we can be here to gain new understanding on food and health and spirituality and lifestyle and mood and exercise. Just pray that you will help us to apply everything that we've learned, that it will have a positive impact and change our lifestyle accordingly. Amen.
Thank you. So, now we have the drawing. Would the kids please come and help me? So we have 8 drawing books to give away. Who is it? Nancy? Mm-hmm. Who is on yours? Ayla?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Joseph? Becky? Jen? Okay, 2 more. 2 more, each of you. Okay. Can you open it? That's you. Nadima. Okay. No. Don't put it back. So, Lisa? Oh, we did that too. Layla? Okay, I guess you have enough of them. Lady Chapman. And then one more. Lorraine for a nice water bottle. So, and then each one of you can take 2 or 3 of these nice pumpkins and birds that are on the tables. please take them all home. So with this, I wish you a good evening. The next session is in January, so it's in the second week of January on a Thursday. So please keep tuned for more information. Hope to see you all there. Good night.